Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. How to prevent someone from stealing from your practice. Can be a very controversial and touchy subject. By no means are we trying to help give financial advice or legal advice to you if you have any, or if you are in dire straits or you're not knowing what's going on with your practice. Please seek professional counsel. This is for entertainment purposes only. My name is Dr. Elsie Coe. I'm the CEO and founder of Lead Physician Online Leadership Program and the Chief Medical Officer of American Endovascular and Amputation Prevention. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe so that you're notified every time we have a topic that comes on physician leadership. And this really applies to so many people outside of just being a physician in healthcare and even outside of healthcare. But this is a leadership platform for physicians, and this could help anyone. But how do we all know somebody, I know people in my family who, they're not totally in touch with what's going on in the front. And we have an expert here, Dr. David Norris, who speaks all over the country on the subject on financial intelligence for physicians in healthcare, and he coaches them. He wrote this book called The Financially Intelligent Physician. I highly recommend you get that on Amazon. There's a link on the post, and he's going to talk to you about what are those things that we really need to know and how do you get started being financially intelligent. So let me bring him on. Hi, David. How you doing?
Hey, good. You?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to show your book here that you put together for physicians. Why did you write this book in the first place?
I wrote it because I realized most physicians don't have any idea how to determine the financial health of their practice. We're taught how to determine the health of our patients, but how healthy the practice is, we have no idea. We're not trained in that. So I wrote this as a way to just be a reference for physicians to educate themselves, and then as a reference so they can go back and say, what am I missing here? Why aren't we hitting our metrics like we should?
Right. And given that it's written by a physician for physicians, he keenly understands what it is that how he needs to write it so you understand it. So go check it out. So the topic is how to prevent someone from stealing from your practice. Can you talk a little bit about this topic?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I've had a lot of physicians come to me and say that they really have found the book informative and useful. And I've actually had a few say they wish they would have read it before someone stole from them. There's a group in town, and their office manager absconded with a couple $1 million over a course of a couple of years, maybe 10 years. And no one noticed it until they got audited by the IRS. They had a tax audit. And then by that time, she was like, ooh, they're going to find me. And because she stole so much money, they thought they couldn't make money and keep their practice open. So they went ahead and closed up shop and became employees rather than being, their own bosses. Long story short, she's now 79, 78, something like that. And a judge just sentenced her to 4 years in prison because she wouldn't say she's sorry and didn't want to take any other deals. When I was talking with a good friend of mine who's in that practice, I said, what happened? And she said, basically, we never looked at any reports. We should have read your book. So, if you don't know what to ask for and you don't know what to look for, it's pretty easy for someone to steal from you.
Yeah. So let's go get into it. I know this is going to be a prelude. And for those of you watching or interested in learning more from Dr. Norris beyond what's going to be discussed in this short podcast, please look at the link that for the Women in IR through the SIR, Society of Interventional Radiology. We have a Dream Big Book Club, and Dr. Norris will be speaking on April 24. So let's dive into it. How do we get started? How do we learn not to have this happen to us?
Well, the first thing to do is to really understand the 3 financial reports you should be getting on a regular basis. The first report you should look at is what is known as the income statement. It's also a P&L or a profit loss statement. And that's going to summarize all of your expenses and income over a particular period of time. Now, it's important to realize it doesn't tell you the full story. It doesn't tell you the whole story as to what's going on. but it is important. And I know a lot of physicians and a lot of business folks, they look at the bottom line. You look at the net income. What I want you to do and what I teach people to do is start at the top and work your way down line by line, and really understand what's on that report. It's no different than, understanding the difference between a white blood cell count, RBC, hemoglobin, hematocrit. You got to know all those things if you want to figure out what kind of anemia your patient has. The same thing with an income statement. The second report.
I have a little a sample of what an income, very, very basic one looks like, and you have this in your book too, just to show that revenue and expenses, and then coming up with a net profit. And that's pretty understandable, I think, for most physicians.
Yeah, but it's important to realize they don't show everything on that report. And to get a bigger picture, you need the other two reports. The second one that you need to look at on a regular basis is your balance sheet. And your balance sheet just is a list of everything the company owns and everything the company owes. And it's based on an accounting equation. It's assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. You probably experienced this when you fill out a loan. Your banker has you fill this balance sheet out for him, and he's trying to determine your owner's equity, which is your assets minus your liabilities. This is important because you want to watch some of those things. You want to watch a number of those line items to see how well things are doing. And as we begin to look at ratios, the balance sheet becomes real important in determining the solvency and the financial health of the practice.
Very good. Very good.
And then the third, and I think probably one of the most important reports is the cash flow statement, or the statement of cash flows. Now, you may or may not get this. You can build it yourself, but in today's accounting software, it's just a click of a button. They should be able to report it to you. And why this report is important is it shows you where the cash is going to and coming from. And it's broken down into three big areas. It's broken down into operating, investing, and financing activities. And what's important in this is going to show you the net changes of everything. It'll show you how much money came in from operations and how much you spent. How much did you bring money in investing? Or how much did you spend in investing? And more importantly, it'll show you where cash is coming from in terms of financing. Did you borrow a lot of money? Did you, sell shares and get equity that way? It's important because you can make money. You can have a positive net income on the income statement, but you can still go broke. And this report helps you really determine where that cash is going, because on your income statement, the PI, the principal of any loan is not reflected. That really is only shown on the balance sheet, and you only get that if you compare month to month. But the cash flow statement is going to really help you realize, wow, we're spending a lot of money on debt. Your interest shows up on your income statement, but the principal does not. So it's real important for you to kind of look at that report and see where all your money is going to and coming from.
So, now that you showed us the three primary types of financial statements, let's go back to that original story you're talking about, David. Where was the missing link for that physician, and where could it, he's saying, I should have read your book. What was it about your book? What was it in the book that really could have prevented him from having this happen to him?
Well, I think first and foremost, it would have been taking the responsibility and not just blindly trusting your office manager. It's looking at the reports and studying them, okay? Understanding what each line item is. It's about creating a budget, understanding where your expenses should be, where your revenue should be. And so budgeting isn't just part of forecasting for the future. It actually can be a useful tool to determine and detect fraud. Because if you have good data when you set that projection for the future, and you have your volumes, your payer mixes, and you put all that into the equations, and it spits out your numbers. And if you look at your trends and your productivity is hitting those trends, but your finances aren't, you need to start asking questions. Is it a collections issue? Is it an expense issue? Are expenses really high? And then you need to know every line item. You know, if it's like a nebulous thing like marketing, or some really nebulous line items on either an income statement, you need to dig down into that. You need to say, hey, where are these dollars being spent? Let me see the receipts. Let me see the invoices. I really want to understand that. And that's kind of probably how she kind of absconded with some of those things. And you know, a while ago, our company switched accountants, and every accountant likes to classify things differently. And so she started reclassifying some of our line items. And I told her, no, you go back to the way it was. I don't care if that's how you like it, but this is how I can track and trend from time to time, from period to period. And when you change that, I lose that ability. And that's an easy way for folks to kind of steal from you. So you really got to understand each line item, and look at the reports. Just because they give you them, don't just glance over them. Study them. Say, does this make sense?
Right. And it doesn't mean that you have to be doing all the bookkeeping. You can still have your
Correct.
bookkeeping person or a consultant helping you with, because that could be daunting to look at. And whether you use QuickBooks or, you know, use other app, or you have somebody who does bookkeeping for you. I mean, I have bookkeeping for myself. But the whole point is to go back and actually study the sheets on a quarterly basis at least, right? And have an understanding of what's going on and what doesn't make sense. What are the trends? I love that. Thank you so much. You know, David, you're going to be talking about this in the book club coming up through the Women's in IR, and there's a link for you to sign up. If you're a member of the Society of Interventional Radiology, you're welcome to come. But the Dream Big Book Club through the Society of Interventional Radiology is April 24. And what are you going to be talking about during that time? Why should we be listening in?
Well, in that particular talk, I'm going to really dive into the 3 financial statements we talked about. I'm going to walk you through what's on your income statement, things to look for. We're going to walk through the things that appear on a balance sheet and a cash flow statement, and really how those interact, how those relate to each other, and how you can use the information to get a good, clear picture as to the financial health of your practice. We're going to talk about some ways that you can do analyses in determining the financial health. You know, we have, hemoglobin A1Cs and other markers we use to determine the health of the patient. Well, we're going to talk about some of those same principles, but we're going to apply it to the health of our practice. Some metrics or ratios that we want to use to help us figure out what our health is. And then finally, I'm going to give you some tips on how to detect and prevent fraud in your practice. Things that you can do to kind of keep a lookout and keep a watchful eye so people don't steal your hard-earned money.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. My name is Dr. Elsie Coe. If you have a topic on leadership, please reach out to me at info@drelsiecoe.com. I'd love to hear from you. And we are starting Lead Physician again. Please join us at leadphysician.org. Even if you just have a question about it, schedule a 15-minute call. Any last words of wisdom for us, David, as we close?
It's your responsibility to take personal ownership and realize that you do entrust those others to do the accounting for you, but you got to make certain that it's done right. And if you don't understand something, ask, because it's far better to feel stupid and ask a question than to look stupid in the public when the jury verdict comes out in the newspaper.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching.